MDA Podcast. Welcome to the MDA Podcast. I'm your host, Michael. Today we will be talking about iPhone versus Samsung. I will have two guests on my podcast, Riley and Sydney. They will be talking about either iPhone or Samsung, which phone is the best. I will have each guest on the show. After that, I will have the two guests in the same room to have a debate. Whoever comes up with a best on their debate, I will promote their phones on the MDA podcast for a month. Stay tuned, you don't want to miss this. Please welcome my first guest on the MDA podcast. His name is Riley. He's a big Samsung fan. Let's see what he has to say.
Hello, I'm Riley, and I really like Samsung phones. I think they're a lot better than some of the other phones out on the market, like the iPhone, for example. And that's because I just think they're well made, and they're good quality, and they last quite a good time, and they're very modern as well. The way they're put together and things like that. They change their phones with each model, and they try to change it as well as they can. And when I say modern, I mean how they have a very, very clear screen, very nice, good quality camera, and it just makes the phone just seems like it's from the future. It's just really nice, really sleek, and really, really fast running as well. So and it's when I say smooth, I mean my Samsung has never crashed on me, and it's never sort of froze or any of that. It's straight up just smooth. It runs really well, and I know people say like the phones blow up and that, which is obviously a disadvantage, as you can see. But so if I had a choice between the iPhone and the Samsung, like I put into my survey, I would choose the Samsung every single time. I just think it's just a more, it's just made by a more dedicated company. It's an all-round better phone. I think when you compare the two, the Samsung is clearer and it's faster, and I think it's underrated as well compared to the iPhone. So yeah, I'll choose the Samsung overall. I just think it's sleek and nice and smooth, and I've never had it crash on me. I think it's more reliable.
Thanks, Riley, for coming on the MDA podcast. And we will see you later on for the MDA debate. Thank you, Riley. Now we will take a small break, but we'll be back after the break because I will have my second guest, Sydney. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the MDA podcast and my second guest on the number one podcast in the UK. His name is Sydney. He's a hardcore Apple fan and he's 6'5". Let's see what he has to say.
Hi, my name is Sydney Andrews, and I'm here today to talk about how big of an iPhone fan I am, and why it's better than Samsung. iPhone is better than Samsung because of many things. First of all, it just looks better in every shape and form. It's better shape. It has a better camera in a way, more features. Like the App Store is better than anything on Samsung. You can get more apps, more anything. There's more cases to buy for iPhone to keep your phone secure and safe. like builder's cases. They're like the strongest case you can get for a phone. It works out pretty well. Now onto the headphone jack. The headphone jack is much better than people make it seem. It may fall out easy, but there's a less chance of it actually breaking when you pull it, because when it had the old headphone jack, when you plugged it in, if you pulled it too hard or too much, it would just snap and your phone would break. With the headphone jack, when you just put it on the back of your phone, it seems better because, you know, you can get better quality. They've made the headphones for it so much better, the earphones. They've just done a good job overall. The only reason they have done it is because it's a company. They need to make a profit. So they actually did a good thing for their company by making people pay for new headphones and continuous ideas to make the phone better overall. Now onto it's more solid than Samsung. Samsung can break so much easier than iPhone, even without a case. If you drop it from like 2 feet, it could break. iPhone, you could drop it from like 10 feet, it would just have a little scratch, maybe not even that, and it would just keep working and working. The only time it would probably break by a fall is if you've had it for like 2 or 1 year, mainly because, you know, the materials are starting to wear out. And by the end of the first year, the new one will be out and you can upgrade for free. So it's kind of worth it. Hear that? Didn't break. Like I said on my survey, the only improvement that the iPhone could have is have a larger screen for bigger people. I can tell you this because like Michael said, I am 6'5", and I'm pretty big, and I've got the iPhone 7, and the screen doesn't seem big enough. So that's like the only improvement I would actually get. Now onto the it has much better speakers. So if you play music through your phone instead of wearing headphones, like you're at home chilling, you can just have it blaring out. And because they've got much bigger speakers like studio speakers in the phone, it's much better quality, and you can just hear it throughout. It's louder, more. You can have it louder as much as you want. It works out pretty well. There's nothing really wrong with it. The studio speakers work out pretty well in the phone. Okay, thank you for listening, and back to Michael.
Thank you, Sydney. So now we will take a small break again, but after we come back, we will have the 2 people we interviewed on the podcast in the same room to have the debates. Welcome back to the MDA podcast. But now I want to welcome back my 2 guests, Riley, the big Samson fan, and Sydney, what they have to say on the MDA podcast.
Hi, I'm Sydney Andrews, and I'm a big Apple fan.
I'm Riley, and I'm a big Samsung fan. So, Sydney,
Yes.
what do you like about the old iPhone then?
It's just the design, really. It's very simple, unique. Things change every time there's a new one. But now let's turn that question around to you. Like, Samsung don't really change anything, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree with iPhone being unique, but Samsung do change. Just because they do change their phones. It's just that because they've made such a phone, they don't need to change it as much. But they do. They just keep their design because it works, which is good. And I know iPhone do that, but that they seem to think that they have the best design, and they don't change it for that reason. But I think they need to change their design and then keep it that way, because it does need a change, and they need to think about when they change it, because they made a recent change with the headphone jack, and that was just a mistake, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Removing something which is useful.
I can kind of agree on the headphone jack. It wasn't the smartest idea, but they're a business. They have to make more profit. So they're making you spend more so they get more money to make a better phone next time.
Yeah, but
So
Apple's massive, man. Like,
that's true.
it's a massive company. They earn, like, you've got like iMac and I this and I that. They don't need to do that. I think they should have just, you've got a fair point. Yeah, money, is important to a company like that. But
We will take a small break from this debate, but be back and pay attention to the MDA podcast. Welcome back to the MDA podcast. In the break, you heard a young up-and-comer bass player. Go on to his Facebook page, Ben Norton. He's a great bass player. Have a watch. But now I want to welcome back my two guests, Riley, the big Samsung fan, and Sydney, the big Apple fan. And they are in the same room.
So like you said about how Apple's a big company, it is, but Samsung's also a pretty large company, and they do the same as Apple. But Apple keep their design because it keeps working. The only thing that really changes, the screen gets bigger, and it's doing well. Samsung's kind of dropping in, money and people using their phones. So yeah,
I'll admit, yeah, Samsung, they are losing money. They're not doing as well as they were, and that's probably because of the whole situation with them, overheating and things. But that's apparently might be because they tried so hard to make such a good phone, they overdid it with, the technology they have. So therefore it overheats so much. Is apparently what they're saying, which I think is good because they're thinking of the people rather than the money, which is what I think Apple kind of do. They kind of think about the money. They take away the headphone jack and they sell these little earbuds which they make you pay £80 or £100 or whatever for, and then Samsung, they're thinking about the people. That's what I think, rather than the money, because they want to make the best product they can. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, it is a company. They have to make a profit, more money to keep it going. That's what Samsung is lacking. They need to focus on the people, like 50-50 people and company. Samsung are more like 80% people, 20% company, and they're kind of falling down compared to other companies, especially Apple. So yeah,
I mean that obviously affect the quality of the phone, but it doesn't make a good phone,
I guess.
And I just think iPhone lacks that a bit. I just think I think it's gone a bit too far. It's getting a bit old now. It's like we're on the iPhone 7 now, and in about 2 years' time it will be the iPhone 8. And I just think I think they just need to cut it down a bit.
Slow it down a bit.
Yeah. And because it's just the same thing. It's just, I look at it and I'm like, oh, it's the same. Like, it's the same with like the iPhone 7 as the iPhone 6 Plus without a headphone jack. It's what it is. So this is all I see with the iPhone. With Samsung, they don't release phones like every 2 seconds. They release them. I don't know what time period they release them in, but it's a lot slower than iPhones. They let you, have the phone for a while before they make you upgrade it.
Yeah.
Rather than iPhone, you spend all that money on, the 6 Plus, and then the next thing, the new one's out, and then everyone wants to get the new one just because it's the new one.
Yeah.
I don't really see people arguing the fact that they want the new one. They just want the new one because it's new.
I mean, the only reason they keep making new ones is because people keep asking for them. Because people get impatient and they can't wait for the new phone. especially Apple users, they really want a new phone no matter what it is. Kind of just needed to them. And Samsung, they take like 2-3 years to make a new phone, which is a good idea, don't get me wrong. But they kind of lose their phone base, like people, users, because of it.
Yeah.
And it just takes too long. Even with the high technology they use, like you said, it overheats. And then they lose more money from that because they get like lawsuits and stuff. People sue them for injuries, other things, and it just doesn't work out.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. So I'm saying that iPhone need to slow it down a bit, and you're saying Samsung they kind of need to speed it up a bit. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Your point was good, and we can both agree that both phones are good, both companies,
I just see Samsung as a
and I see Apple.
yeah.
So
Thank you, Sydney. Thank you, Riley. So now we will take a small break again. Welcome back to the MDA podcast. So I have spoken to Riley and Sydney. Riley was a hardcore Samsung fan. Sydney was a hardcore Apple fan. And from this podcast, I want to find out which phone people prefer, Samsung or iPhone. My opinion is I prefer iPhone over Samsung because it looks more expensive. I want to say thank you to all my guests I had on the podcast, and stay tuned each week for the number 1 podcast in the UK, the MDA podcast. Thanks for tuning in. The end.